This episode contains mature themes, including topics of obsession, betrayal, and violent acts, which some viewers may find distressing. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised.
Was it hard to pull the trigger?
Well, yes. I mean, it was. I was on a mission in the military, but I was in the same type of mindset with it. But I was doing what I had to do to protect Jennifer.
Jennifer Faith was well regarded. Known for her cheerful personality and warm demeanor, she was the kind of neighbor who remembered birthdays and checked in on you when you were sick. Jamie Faith was the kind of man who made an impression on everyone he met. Colleagues described him as hardworking and dependable, the rare type of person who balanced a sharp intellect with genuine warmth. Friends often spoke about his laugh, the kind that filled a room and made even the hardest days seem lighter. Jamie's devotion wasn't limited to his work at American Airlines, where he thrived as an IT director. It extended to his family, friends, and even his neighbors in their quiet Oak Cliff community in Dallas, Texas. People often said Jennifer and Jamie were a perfect match. The two had been introduced by mutual friends in 2005, and from the start, their connection seemed effortless. They shared the kind of laughter and banter that made others want what they had. Their relationship blossomed quickly. By 2012, they eloped during a vacation to Las Vegas, sealing their commitment in a whirlwind ceremony that reflected the spontaneity of their love. Jamie didn't just marry Jennifer, he embraced her daughter Amber from her previous marriage, treating her as if she were his own. When Amber turned 18, Jamie legally adopted her, a gesture that spoke volumes about the depth of his commitment to his new family. He wasn't just her stepfather, he was her dad in every way that mattered. The family's life was comfortable and secure. Jamie's promotion in 2017 brought them to Dallas, where they purchased a charming home in Oak Cliff. The house, with its welcoming porch and lush backyard, became a gathering place for friends and neighbors. It was the kind of place where summer afternoons were spent grilling by the pool, and evenings were filled with laughter and the sound of children playing. Neighbors often remarked on how happy the Faiths seemed. Jamie had an easy way with people, and his genuine kindness made him a pillar of the community. Jennifer complimented him perfectly, always quick to lend a helping hand or host a get-together. Together, they painted a picture of stability and love, partners in every sense of the word. But what made their story even more endearing was their shared sense of purpose. They weren't just building a life for themselves, they were creating a family legacy. Jamie took great pride in his work, but his real joy came from watching Amber grow. He attended her dance recitals, celebrated her milestones, and supported her dreams with unrelenting enthusiasm. Jennifer, for her part, seemed equally committed to their life together, often sharing how proud she was of Jamie and the life they had built. To the outside world, the Faiths had everything: a strong marriage, a loving family, financial security, and the respect of their community. They were the embodiment of the American dream, a couple who appeared to have it all. But as the days and months leading up to October 9th, 2020 would reveal, appearances can be deceiving. Beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic life, cracks were forming. Cracks that would soon shatter their world in ways no one could have imagined. What started as a storybook marriage would end in betrayal, manipulation, and a devastating crime that would leave a lasting scar on everyone who knew them. Welcome to Crime of Passion. I thank you, my viewers, most especially my subscribers, for your support as we keep improving and bringing daily told and untold true crime of passion stories updates. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It was the start of 2020 when Jennifer Faith did something many people do without a second thought. She logged on to LinkedIn. But instead of connecting with colleagues or searching for professional opportunities, Jennifer found herself drawn to an old name from her past: Darrin Lopez. Darrin wasn't just any old connection. He was her high school boyfriend, the boy she had gone to prom with, and the one who had once held her heart. More than 30 years had passed since they had last spoken, but a simple message changed everything. At the time, Darrin was living in rural Tennessee, far from the bustling streets of Dallas. His life had been anything but easy. A decorated Army veteran and former Green Beret, Darrin had survived 6 combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. But war leaves its mark. A roadside bomb had taken out his unit, killing 19 of his comrades and leaving him with a traumatic brain injury that would haunt him for the rest of his life. His injuries had cut short his military career, leaving him physically and emotionally scarred, struggling to rebuild a quiet life on his secluded 20-acre property. When Jennifer's message appeared in his inbox, it was like opening a door to a life he thought he had left behind. The two began exchanging messages, starting with small talk about the years that had passed. Their conversations quickly grew more personal, filled with nostalgia and memories of their shared teenage years. For Darrin, who had spent much of his post-military life in isolation, these messages became a lifeline, something to look forward to in his otherwise monotonous days. Jennifer, too, seemed eager to rekindle the connection. She confided in Darrin about her life, her marriage to Jamie, and the challenges she claimed she was facing. At first, her story seemed like the typical ups and downs of a long-term relationship. But soon, the tone of her messages began to shift. She started hinting at deeper troubles, things she couldn't share with anyone else but him. By mid-2020, their exchanges had evolved into something more intense. Jennifer began to paint a dark picture of her marriage. She told Darrin that Jamie wasn't the loving husband everyone thought he was. Instead, she claimed, he was controlling, abusive, and dangerous. She spoke of physical and emotional torment, detailing alleged acts of violence in vivid, horrifying detail. To prove her claims, Jennifer sent Darrin emails, purportedly from Jamie himself. In these emails, Jamie threatened her, mocked her, and made chilling statements about his control over her life. But what Darrin didn't know was that these emails weren't from Jamie at all. They were written by Jennifer. She had created fake accounts to further manipulate Darrin, playing on his protective instincts and his deep-rooted sense of loyalty. Jennifer didn't stop there. She sent Darrin photos of bruises and injuries, claiming they were the result of Jamie's abuse. What she failed to mention was that these images were from a car accident she had been in years earlier. To Darrin, the evidence was undeniable. The woman he had once loved was trapped in a nightmare, and she needed his help. The messages between Jennifer and Darrin became relentless. Some days they exchanged more than 500 texts, their conversations stretching late into the night. Jennifer's words were laced with desperation, and Darrin, vulnerable and lonely, was drawn deeper into her narrative. She told him she didn't feel safe, that Jamie was becoming more violent, and that she feared for her life. Through it all, Jennifer began to hint at a solution, one that would finally free her from Jamie's grasp. She spoke of a future where they could be together, away from the pain and fear. It was a dream that Darrin couldn't resist, especially coming from a woman he had once loved so deeply. But that dream came with a price that Darrin, manipulated and blinded by Jennifer's lies, was willing to pay. As their connection grew stronger, so did Jennifer's control over Darrin. She had transformed him from an old flame into a pawn in a deadly game. What started as a rekindling of teenage romance had now become something far more dangerous, setting the stage for a tragedy that would shatter lives and expose the chilling depths of Jennifer's deceit. Every detail was carefully orchestrated. Jennifer didn't merely suggest a course of action. She guided Darrin step by step. When he hesitated, she reassured him. When he doubted, she pressed harder. When he offered alternatives, she dismissed them, reinforcing that the only solution was to eliminate Jamie. In one message, she wrote, "I don't see another way out of this. He won't stop." Jennifer's manipulation extended beyond the emotional. She offered Darrin practical support, giving him access to her credit cards and sending him money. She framed it as a way to ease his burdens, but it was another layer of control. By making him financially dependent on her, she ensured he remained tied to her plans. Even as the plan moved toward its deadly conclusion, Jennifer maintained her grip on Darrin. When he voiced concerns or hesitations, she doubled down on the lies, ramping up the stories of abuse and danger. Her texts grew more frantic, more urgent, painting a picture of a woman on the brink of destruction. Darrin, already overwhelmed by her emotional manipulation, felt he had no choice but to act. It was a cool, quiet morning on October 9th, 2020, in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas, Texas. Jamie Faith and his wife Jennifer stepped out of their home with their dog Maggie for what should have been a routine morning walk. The neighborhood was just waking up, windows beginning to glow with light, a few neighbors sipping coffee on their porches. The Faiths had no way of knowing that someone was waiting for them. Parked nearby in the shadows of a neighbor's home, a black Nissan Titan truck had been there for hours. Inside sat Darrin Lopez, a man consumed by love, deception, and a mission he believed was righteous. He had driven through the night from his Tennessee home to Dallas, fueled by lies Jennifer had fed him for months. Lies about Jamie being a monster who had abused her. At 7:30 a.m., Jamie and Jennifer began their walk. They were only a few steps from their front door when the calm morning shattered. Darrin emerged, armed with a .45 caliber handgun. Jamie didn't have a moment to react. The first shot rang out, hitting him in the head. He staggered, and Darrin fired again and again. Neighbors rushed to their windows at the sound of gunfire, their alarmed voices cutting through the early morning stillness. Maggie, the Faith's dog, barked and cowered as the shots continued.
3 times in the head, 3 times in the chest area, and 1 time in the groin.
3 to Jamie's head, 3 to his chest, and 1 to his groin. The brutal precision of the attack spoke volumes. This wasn't random. This was personal. Jamie collapsed onto the pavement, his lifeless body lying mere feet from his own home. Blood pooled beneath him, staining the street. His wedding band, a symbol of love and commitment, was ripped from his finger, a cruel gesture meant to stage the scene as a robbery gone wrong. But Darrin wasn't finished. He turned to Jennifer, who stood frozen in shock. Her screams filled the air as he lunged at her, pulling duct tape from his pocket. He tightly bound her hands and wrists, leaving her visibly shaken and helpless. For a fleeting moment, it might have seemed like he was attacking her too. But this act was calculated. It was meant to cement the illusion of a random, violent ambush. As quickly as he had appeared, Darrin fled the scene, jumping back into his truck and speeding off. The distinctive white T decal on the rear window would later become a critical clue. He drove away, leaving behind chaos, devastation, and a neighborhood in panic. Neighbors poured out of their homes, horrified by what they saw. Some dialed 911 with trembling hands, their voices frantic as they described the scene. Others tried to comfort Jennifer, who was hysterical, her cries echoing in the streets. She clutched Maggie's leash with trembling hands, her sobs so intense that words were nearly impossible to form. Paramedics and police arrived within minutes, but there was nothing they could do for Jamie. His body lay uncovered in the street, a stark and horrifying contrast to the peaceful neighborhood he had called home. Jennifer recounted the attack to the police, describing the gunman as a masked stranger who had ambushed them. Her voice cracked as she begged for answers, for justice, for someone to catch the man who had just stolen her husband's life.
6, 5, 6, maybe I feel like, and you just kept going, and I couldn't stop it.
The neighborhood was left reeling. Jamie Faith, a man admired and loved by so many, was gone. But even in the midst of the chaos, the pieces of a larger, darker story were beginning to emerge. For the investigators on the scene, something about the attack felt off, too calculated, too specific. What seemed at first like a tragic act of random violence would soon reveal layers of deceit, betrayal, and cold-blooded manipulation. Jamie's murder was just the beginning. The truth that would come to light in the days and weeks ahead would shake everyone to their core. At first glance, it seemed like a tragic robbery gone wrong. But as investigators began to dig deeper, every piece of evidence started to tell a more complex story. The first clue came from a neighbor's security camera. Grainy footage captured the killer's getaway vehicle, a black Nissan Titan with a white T decal on its rear window. While the image wasn't clear enough to reveal a license plate, it gave detectives a crucial lead. They issued a statewide alert for the truck, hoping it would surface quickly. but the trail seemed to go cold, until Jennifer's own phone provided the next major breakthrough. In the days following the murder, Jennifer handed her phone over to police. At first, her cooperation appeared genuine, but a text from months earlier raised immediate red flags. The message, sent in April 2020, revealed Jennifer confessing to a full-blown emotional affair with a man named Darrin Lopez, an old high school flame. The timing and context were impossible to ignore. Detectives began piecing together Jennifer's connection to Darrin. They discovered that Lopez, a decorated Green Beret, lived in rural Tennessee, over 650 miles from Dallas. Further surveillance revealed that Darrin owned a black Nissan Titan truck, and remarkably, it still bore the distinctive T decal seen in the footage from the murder scene. But police needed more than circumstantial evidence to connect Darrin to the crime. They obtained a search warrant for his phone records, and what they found stunned even the most seasoned investigators. GPS data showed that Darrin's phone had traveled from Tennessee to Dallas on October 8, 2020, arriving just hours before Jamie Faith was killed. After the murder, the phone traced a direct route back to Tennessee. The timestamps left no doubt. Darrin had been in the area during the exact window of the crime. The evidence didn't stop there. Authorities uncovered a staggering amount of communication between Jennifer and Darrin in the months leading up to the murder. Phone records revealed over 116,000 texts exchanged between the two, averaging more than 500 messages a day. These weren't casual conversations. They were intimate, obsessive, and, as investigators would soon learn, incriminating. One particular text message stood out. Shortly after the murder, Jennifer sent Darrin an urgent plea. "Something is eating away at me, telling me you need to take the sticker out of the back window of the truck. I really think you need to get that sticker off ASAP, like today." Within hours, Darrin responded, "Sticker done." For investigators, this was a chilling confirmation that Jennifer wasn't just aware of the crime. She was actively helping to cover it up. Surveillance of Darrin's Tennessee property soon provided even more damning evidence. Aerial images confirmed the presence of his black Nissan Titan, and when police executed a search warrant on January 11, 2021, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Inside Darrin's home, they found a .45 caliber handgun that matched the ballistics from the murder scene. Even more incriminating, a smear of Jamie Faith's blood was found on the weapon. It was the smoking gun detectives needed. But the search didn't end there. In Darrin's backpack, officers discovered 2 credit cards in Jennifer Faith's name. This raised an even more troubling question. Why was Jennifer providing financial support to the man accused of killing her husband? Investigators also found a blue face mask, the same color Jennifer had described the killer wearing. The connections were undeniable. Meanwhile, detectives continued analyzing Jennifer's phone and online activity. What they uncovered painted a harrowing picture of manipulation and deceit. Deleted text messages revealed that Jennifer had been coaching Darrin on how to evade detection, even instructing him to factory reset his phone and delete incriminating evidence. Jennifer's efforts to appear as a grieving widow were rapidly unraveling. Perhaps the most shocking discovery came in the form of emails Jennifer had sent to Darrin. Investigators found that she had created fake accounts, posing as her husband Jamie, and even a fictitious co-worker. Through these accounts, Jennifer sent Darrin fabricated messages claiming Jamie was abusive, violent, and a threat to her safety. She attached stock photos of injuries, convincing Darrin that she was in immediate danger. Every lie was designed to manipulate Darrin into believing that Jamie had to be stopped. The deeper investigators dug, the clearer the picture became. Jennifer Faith wasn't a passive victim of circumstance. She was the architect of a sinister plan to have her husband murdered. By February 2021, police had built an airtight case against her. The grieving widow who had pleaded for justice on television was, in reality, the mastermind behind a calculated and cold-blooded crime. This phase of the investigation was as crucial as it was painstaking. Every text message, every email, and every piece of GPS data brought them closer to the truth. What began as a seemingly random act of violence had transformed into a shocking story of betrayal, greed, and manipulation. For Jamie Faith's family and the Oak Cliff community, the revelations were both heartbreaking and infuriating. The arrest of Jennifer Faith would follow shortly, but the damage she caused to her husband, her family, and her community could never be undone. The investigation had uncovered the unthinkable. The person Jamie had trusted most in the world was the one responsible for orchestrating his murder. The investigation took a decisive turn on January 11, 2021. After months of gathering evidence, detectives moved in on Darrin Lopez, arresting him at his home in Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee. As officers approached, Darrin remained eerily calm, though the weight of what was about to unfold seemed to settle over him. His demeanor was reserved, but his silence spoke volumes. On February 24, 2021, police arrested Jennifer Faith at her Dallas home. The woman who had appeared on television, tearfully pleading for answers about her husband's murder, now faced charges of obstruction of justice. The photographs Jennifer had sent Darrin, showing bruises and injuries she claimed were caused by Jamie, were also exposed as fakes, lifted from the internet or from an old car accident years prior. Even after her arrest, Jennifer's audacity knew no bounds. From her jail cell, she attempted to maintain her grip on Darrin, sending messages through a third party. In one letter, she insisted, "I never lied to you," trying to keep him loyal and silent. But by then, the evidence against her was overwhelming. The case against Jennifer Faith grew stronger with each passing day. Her digital trail was a roadmap of manipulation, and the financial records sealed her fate. The GoFundMe money, intended to support her and her daughter, had been used to shower Darrin with gifts and money, airplane tickets, cash transfers, and even promises of a new life together funded by Jamie's life insurance payout. Every dollar spent was another nail in the coffin of her defense. By the time the full extent of her deceit was laid bare, Jennifer Faith was no longer just a grieving widow. She was the mastermind behind a cold, calculated plot to end her husband's life. Her arrest wasn't just the conclusion of an investigation. It was the unmasking of a woman who had manipulated love, trust, and grief to serve her own selfish desires. Justice, when it finally came, was as intricate and devastating as the web of lies Jennifer Faith had spun. In the end, the courtroom was not just a place for legal proceedings. It became a stage where the full depth of her betrayal was laid bare. Jennifer, who had once played the role of a grieving widow with chilling precision, now faced the weight of her crimes in the cold light of truth. In a deal that spared her the death penalty, Jennifer Faith pleaded guilty to one count of using interstate commerce in the commission of murder for hire. The plea required her to admit, unequivocally, that her husband Jamie had never abused her, physically, sexually, or otherwise. The court and the public saw a woman who had meticulously crafted her husband's demise, not out of desperation or fear, but out of greed and self-interest. Her sentence was life in prison, a fate that many believed she had earned through her cold and calculated actions. But the punishment didn't stop there. Jennifer was fined $250,000 and ordered to repay the $60,000 she had taken from the GoFundMe campaign. The money, donated by her unsuspecting neighbors and friends, had been meant to support her and her daughter in their time of supposed grief. Instead, Jennifer had used it to fund her affair, buying gifts and covering expenses for the very man who had murdered her husband. In court, U.S. District Judge Jane J. Boyle did not mince words. She called Jennifer pure evil, a woman who had weaponized love and trust to achieve her sinister goals. It was a rare and damning statement from the bench, underscoring the unprecedented nature of the case. As Jennifer stood before the judge, the persona she had so carefully crafted, the heartbroken widow, the loving wife, crumbled under the weight of her lies. Darrin Lopez, too, faced justice. Convicted of Jamie's murder, he received a 62-year sentence in 2023.
My understanding that you all have reached a unanimous verdict and that verdict was signed by the foreperson and delivered to the court. Is that true?
Yes.
Very good. If you all would please stand for the reading of the verdict. Verdict form reads as follows. Cause number F2175024, State of Texas versus Darrin Lopez. We, the jury, having previously found the defendant, Darrin Lopez, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment, unanimously assessed the punishment of the defendant at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for a term of 62 years and a fine of $10,000. Members of the jury, if that is your individual verdict, would you please signify so by raising your right hand? Please let the record reflect that all 12 members of the jury did in fact raise their right.
During his trial, it became clear how deeply Jennifer had manipulated him. A man once decorated for his service to his country, Darrin had been drawn into a delusion so powerful that he abandoned his morals and his future.
Obviously, we're disappointed with the verdict. Client's hanging in there. We fought hard for him. Nobody wins. Nobody. I mean, Jennifer's got a life sentence, who I truly believe was the most responsible in this case. I think she caused all this to happen. And I truly believe that Darrin was manipulated.
His attorney argued that Jennifer had preyed on his traumatic brain injury and emotional vulnerabilities, but the court held him accountable for his actions. He is eligible for parole in 2051, though the scars of his choices will likely linger for the rest of his life. The fallout extended far beyond the courtroom. Jamie's family and friends, who had once rallied around Jennifer in the wake of the tragedy, were left reeling from the betrayal. The GoFundMe donors, many of whom were Jamie's neighbors, expressed anger and heartbreak at being used in Jennifer's elaborate charade. Some said they could never forgive her. Others simply wanted to move on from the nightmare she had created. Perhaps the most poignant loss was felt by Jamie's adopted daughter, Amber, who had to grapple with the reality that her mother had orchestrated the murder of the man who had loved her as his own. Jamie had been her champion, her role model, and now his life had been stolen in the cruelest way imaginable. Amber left Dallas with the family dog, Maggie, seeking solace and distance from the wreckage her mother left behind. This case remains a haunting example of how deception and greed can destroy lives, not just of the victim, but of everyone in the ripple effect of a single, devastating crime. As Jamie's friends and family continue to honor his memory, the story of his murder stands as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the strength of those who loved him. Justice was served, but the wounds of betrayal will linger for years to come. Jamie Faith's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the devastating impact of betrayal and manipulation. As we honor his memory and the kindness he brought to those around him, let this case stand as a cautionary tale about the power of trust and the consequences of greed. If this story moved you or left you with questions, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Crime of Passion for more real-life stories that uncover the depths of human emotion and the pursuit of justice. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, and share this story with someone who would find it just as gripping. Together, let's keep these conversations going. Thank you for watching.